Very good, indeed. Hey, listen, everybody, thank you. This is overwhelming to be here right now at this moment. And, you know, I'm surrounded by family and friends. Some friends I've known all my life, you know, and others I've just met since I returned from the Army. But strong and true friends indeed. And the elected leaders that are here today, we have representation from across the 11 counties, the entire 11 counties of the 19th Congressional District. And this really means a lot. You know, thank you. And you know, that's, so when you come back home after serving the Army and, you know, there's half the town is the same. And half town's new, and we enjoy the change, and I've gotten to know the new neighbors as well. But you know, when you walk around a town that you grew up in, you never really know what's going to happen. Like tonight, I'm here moving all about, and you know, Miss Carpenter, who's known me, I guess, since I was 3, she walks up and hands me this picture here of like when I was just a little boy. And I think for those that know me well, know I'm a New York Mets fan. Hey, it's not for the weak or faint-hearted. So, and that's a hard place to be in life. But the thing of it is when I was a young boy, I mean, we were traumatized by a loss in the World Series to the Oakland A's. So you can imagine my surprise when I look at my picture this evening, and I'm wearing an Oakland A's. How did this happen? I have no idea how that happened. You never know what's going to happen when you're with people that you grew up with. But, you know, I want to say thank you to Todd and Todd for making the comments here, and also to thank the small businesses that helped contribute here to this evening. Golden Harvest gave us some spread here today. Four Brothers also made a donation in Mark's Pizza. And so thank you for that. Let's give them a hand. Thank you for supporting this. You know, as we gather here, we are several hundred yards away from Martin Van Buren's estate. And on a night like tonight, we remember Martin Van Buren. He was a champion for us. He was born and raised here. He fought for us in Washington, D.C. He championed agrarian life. And, you know, that message rings true today. And, you know, as I stand here today, I'll tell you how proud I am of these 11 counties, of the farmers, all those that pursue the agrarian life here. You know, how important it was for us to pass a federal farm bill. And that's right, that farm bill was key. And, you know, and the key takeaway I want you to know about this farm bill, it was constituent driven. You know, our farmers, I just met, only a couple hours ago, I met with the Farm Bureau, and we had their leadership in. We were going through and taking a look at how the transition's going for the new farm bill, talking about their other priorities. But, you know, it was the passionate folks who are farmers, our broadband experts, our conservation experts, and it was those who were helping fight Lyme disease. They came to us with their ideas. We had long discussions about it. We worked with the professional committee down in Washington, D.C. and legal counsel, and we took their ideas and it made it into law. This is what our founders envisioned. Constituent-driven legislation, important pieces of legislation that are going to help. You know, we're seeing a renaissance in farming. And for the first time in 50 years, in our area, you're seeing a growth of not only the acreage of farms, but the number of farms. And you know what, as somebody who spent 29 years in uniform, in large measure working with regard to energy issues, I want to see us be energy independent. I don't ever want to see us, right, I don't ever want to see us, you're darn right, but I'll tell you what, I don't ever want to see us in a situation where our family farms fail and we end up guarding food. We don't ever want to be in that situation, and the only way that's going to happen is when we stand with our farmers. So I couldn't have been more proud in the work that we did together in that farm bill. And, you know, this really gets to the point of why we're here tonight. And I often get asked, you know, what's going to be your re-election strategy? How are you going to approach all this? And it's true, I've only been doing this for 4 years, coming out of the Army. But I believe this, that the best re-election strategy is service. It's service. It's sincere service, focused on the issues that are important to the people here in upstate New York and staying true to why I was sent to Washington. And that's exactly what we've done. The Farm Bill being an example, the pro-growth policies, you heard Todd talk about how important it is to have pro-growth policies. Why? Because we want this economy to grow so that every American gets a shot at the American dream. So essential to the fabric of the American dream is that everyone gets a shot. And then moving back to a balanced budget over time, but getting back to a balanced budget and staying there so that future generations get the same choices and freedoms that we've had. And protecting freedoms from threats from abroad, but also from encroachment here at home. We stand strong on our Bill of Rights, and that's something that unites all of us. And I will tell you, as we look, as these months go on, that this approach of service is one that's going to hold us in good stead. And in addition to legislative priorities, it's also constituent work. Constituent service work all throughout the 11 counties. And I just want to highlight, I want to give you an example of Erasmo Valdez. Erasmo Valdez is 96 years young. And as a younger man, he came here from Cuba. And he fought for our country in the Korean War. And when he came back, he didn't ask for anything. He went right to work. And he raised a family. And his family is enjoying the American dream. And in the twilight now of his life, he has one request. He just wanted to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery, except for the fact that he had no proof that he had served in the military because all his records had burned in the fire in 1973 out in St. Louis. A problem for a number of veterans that we work to overcome. But you know what? Our office took this issue head on. And Paula Brown, who's here tonight from Delaware County, she had an idea. She said, you know, if he came from Cuba, I wonder if there's any way we can check the immigration records and see if it notes his military service. It's exactly what happened. This Mr. Valdez, he couldn't be more happy today. We've got the documentation. He's a proven veteran, and he's going to be able to have that burial he's looking for. But you know what? 96 years young. We hope he lives for decades beyond. But you know what? We did justice for him. That's important. That's service. That's really important. You know, and also it's important that we follow through on what it is that we say we're going to do. You know, we had a medical group in Sullivan County, and their reimbursements for Medicare had been altered, and they've been cut off. And they were at the point they were getting ready to lay off workers. This is impacting seniors. And our office got involved. Barbara Palmer from Rensselaer County working the issue. We were able to reinstate all their Medicare reimbursements, ensuring that they have that kind of coverage. That's what's important to these communities, that we follow through on what we're saying. And it goes for all generations. Not far from here. We're here at Toyota, and I can tell you that it's surreal to be standing here, a place that I used to drive by my bike when I was young. Lori LaRange is here, has known me, I think, since I was about 3 or 4. But, you know, just about a quarter mile from here is the Warner family. The Warner family, and you know, Peg Warner just wrote to us last week, and how thankful she was. Her granddaughter, who was eligible because of TRICARE, she was eligible for CDP-HP, but it hadn't followed through. There was real issues there. And our office dug into that issue, brought together the parties, showed them the paperwork, and the granddaughter today has the coverage that she should be getting. This is important. This is service. This is constituent-focused service that I think is really important and why we're going to continue to serve. And, you know, small businesses. I talked about farms. Pheno Farms in Ulster County. Pheno Farms in Ulster County was counting on, they had 16 workers that were on their way from Guatemala to help with the harvest. And they were part of the H-2A program, except for that they had been hung up, and they weren't coming through. And they reached out to our office in George, and our Kingston office got to work on this. And this was a very timely thing. You know, when you're working this kind of issue, the margin of profit is so small that if these workers don't show up, we're looking at potential bankruptcy. George dug into this issue. We got the workers in here. The harvest was picked. The farm is flourishing. This is really important work. And then immigration. We've got a family in Dutchess County where we had the wife that was having issues with getting her final paperwork there. And here, once again, we dug into the issue. Our office got together. We got with Immigration Services, and we were able to finalize that paperwork to make sure that family stayed together. Important work. And we've done this for tax-exempt status as well. We've had a situation because of change of law where our fire companies had to reapply for tax-exempt. A whole bunch of issues here to cut through red tape. But here was what was at stake. We had not-for-profit companies that were about ready to go under if they didn't get their paperwork expedited, and we focused on that, and we got that done. And I will tell you what, that is, when you talk about a re-election strategy, it's about service. It's about putting constituents first. It's about listening to what they have to say and fighting for that in Washington, D.C. And it's about every day fighting for our constituents in our district office. And ultimately, it's about leadership. It's about leadership that brings people together. You know, whether it be on that basketball court many moons ago as the point guard and co-captain of Ichabod Crane's team, or then in the Army. You know, in the Army starting as a private, but rising to the rank of colonel and brigade command in the 82nd Airborne Division, and pulling and bringing peoples together, including in northern Iraq, where in one province we had Sunni, Shia, Kurds, Turkmen, Yazidis, Zoroasters, Christians, and Jews. And they wanted to talk about the last 2,000 years. We were just trying to get through the end of the day. We got that done. Okay, it's not going to be a Jeffersonian democracy, but I think it'll be relatively friendly and relatively stable. I hope we learn from that experience too and don't repeat it. But here's the point. You had young men and women who went over there. You asked us to do it. We went over there and did that service. We brought people together. These are the skills that are going to help a country now. A country now when so many times you turn on the TV, it seems like everything's focused on negativity and on divide and how America is so far apart we can't come together. I don't believe that for anything in the world. In fact, what I see is unity. You want to see divide? Go to some places like northern Iraq, or go to Kosovo, or go to Haiti. There's real challenges here. In America, we have so much more in common than we ever have apart. We need leadership that can bring us together. This is where we're focused. And you know, what comes to mind is actually the inspiration that I have this evening as I stand before you comes from Lincoln. And it comes from the intersection of Lincoln and JFK. You know, in the first week of April of 1865, General Grant wired up to Lincoln in something that must have just been beyond words for Lincoln to see. He'd been waiting for this telegram forever. He opened it up, and General Grant said that General Lee is going to surrender. What are your instructions? Now keep in mind what the environment was in the country then. We'd been up through 4 years of war. We had radical Republicans that were so-called in charge of the Congress there, and what they wanted was retribution. They wanted revenge. There had been families ripped apart, deaths, maimings. Lincoln's instructions to General Grant: let him up easy. It was always about the Union. It was always about the country. He never forgot that. In the hardest of times, his principle was pulling us together because this was a land of the free. And this was a land where anyone could make it. And he was not going to prolong the angst and the divide throughout the country. He was going to unite this country. And at the intersection of Lincoln and Kennedy, you know, think of the 1960 election. When John F. Kennedy was elected. You know, this was the changing of generations, as was pointed out. This was the Democratic Party taking over the presidency. There was a real opportunity, if he wanted to, he could have moved this country in a direction towards big government. But you know what Kennedy said? He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Those were important words then. They're just as important words now. And when we think of Lincoln, about bringing this country together, and we think about what Kennedy said, about thinking about something bigger than ourselves, this is what our calling is now. I feel the responsibility to lead by example because we have hard decisions. You know this. We have hard decisions we have to make. This is why that we decided to give our pension back to the United States Treasury. Even though we had earned it, we know that we were going to have to make hard calls. And if there were going to be hard calls to make, our family should be the first ones to take any consequence. And that's what leadership by example is going to be doing. Yeah. And we also, thank you, and we also recognize this, that when our founders put together this country, they never envisioned a permanent political class. That was never the intention. They envisioned a self-governing people where we would elect representatives for a period of time, and they would take on the work, the hard work of making these decisions and moving our country forward. I still think that should be the message for today. I've co-sponsored legislation for term limits in the United States Congress that would match the term limits that we have for the presidency, but I'm not waiting on legislation. I've self-imposed term limits. I've said I'll serve not more than 8 years because I believe in self-governing people, and I believe that we have great folks all around that could do the job for us down in Washington. My current opponent, not in that crew. But there is a clear choice in this election. And while service is, in fact, the biggest issue in this campaign, and the focus on service and delivering for our constituents. There can be no doubt that there is a clear contrast. On the one hand, you have the home team, somebody that grew up here in very humble settings, in a working class family. We didn't have a lot of money, but we did have love and discipline at home, and that helped. And we had great friends. Went into the military and came home, and now focused on service here for a period of time. And on the other hand, you got the away team. Somebody from, I'm not from here. Somebody who at the age of 26, moved in to our district after the last election for the purpose of running for Congress. A pragmatist versus an ideologue. That's what's at stake here. Somebody who did not grow up here, doesn't understand our challenges, has benefited. He's married well. He has, and some say, $1 billion. But I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, there are some things that money can't buy. And I'll tell you this too. I want to give you, and I just want to make this, real. I want to make a fine point here of what's at stake. Because there are big things at stake here. When you talk about a pragmatist versus an ideologue, you know, one of the things that my opponent talks about is he actually lectures about this, about the changing weather patterns. Let me just say this. We've had 3 500-year floods in the last 3 years. We don't need a lecture on changing weather patterns. You know, when we were mucking houses in Prattsville, where was Sean Eldridge?
Right.
He wasn't here. That I know. Right, you know? And when we were fearing the rising waters of Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Lee, where was Sean Eldridge? I don't know. But he wasn't here. He wasn't in this district. And when we dealt with Hurricane Sandy and the devastation that came with all 3 of these hurricanes, you know, where was Sean Eldridge? Well, he wasn't here. We know a little something about changing weather patterns. But let me just tell you this. You know what pragmatists do? They don't pontificate. They take action. So what did we do? We worked on the Sandy Aid Bill. For the first time ever, we're not only working on rebuilding our communities, we've always done that. For the first time ever, we're taking action to mitigate. You hear about it and read about it in media accounts now called the New York Rising Program. That's your federal taxpayer dollar coming up here to help us. Because we know we need to take action to protect our people and our communities. And that means in some cases more floodplains, in other cases it means protecting us, maintenance right around our communities. But the bottom line is this, the time for dialogue and for debate about it, we need to take action. That's what we need. And we also should support, and we do support, and I have the strongest record on the clean and renewable energy. And I will tell you this much, I believe this will be the country where we perfect it and we make it accessible for the working class. We've got prototyping going on not far from here, right up in Albany. We're looking to drive the total cost of photovoltaics down to 9 cents per kilowatt hour with nanotechnology coatings and composites and substitute materials. This is how we will make a difference on this issue. My opponent, what does he want to do? Well, his ideology demands that he adhere to energy taxes. Now, I'll tell you what, you know, you come from a place like here, after the winter that we just went through, and you think about the rising heating costs that we just had and the electricity costs, and he criticizes me for opposing energy taxes, he is out of touch with what it's like to live here. You know, if you got $1 billion, that's great, but we don't, you know, and we have to deal with these rising bills and these rising costs. So what we want to do is take action to protect our people and our property and perfect the clean and renewable energy, but we don't want to impose energy tax. I'm proud to oppose energy tax. I'm going to stand opposed to energy taxes, and he's wrong on the issue. And so as we move here, as we look towards November, the home team, we're focused on jobs, the economy. We're focused on the balanced budget. And yes, we're focused on empowerment, not control. And what does that mean? That means on precious issues like education. We believe in our teachers, parents, and administrators. We don't think the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. know how best to educate our young. This is why we oppose the No Child Left Behind. We oppose the race to the top in the Common Core, because what we're trying to do is empower our localities. And when we're talking about empowering our localities and working on education, we're also thinking of our seniors. You know, our seniors, some of our seniors, about a third of our seniors have a Medicare Advantage plan. They like that plan. It works for them. We shouldn't have folks in Washington looking to cut that program and imperil that program, because it's really about choice, about how they want to live their lives. So we're going to stand strong and protect the Medicare program, including the Medicare Advantage program. And we will stand strong on freedoms. This is something I felt passionately about. I put the uniform on for, and I believe in every ounce of energy that I have in my body that we can live free. And when some folks were surprised when I voted against the Patriot Act, and it's this, that it was unconstitutional, that there were provisions in there that were facially unconstitutional to the Fourth Amendment. You have the right to be reasonably secure in who you are. And the government can't come into your home unless they have a warrant. And the warrant must have specificity in terms of person, place, or thing. Not a general description as the Patriot Act. So we have to stand up at moments like that. We can understand the knee-jerk. We all went through 9/11 here. We know we lost friends that we knew, some in cases family members. We understand that, but I believe that Franklin was right, Ben Franklin. He said we don't have to give up our liberty to protect it, and no person should ever trade liberty for security. We're going to stand for both. We're going to stand up for both liberty and security in all of our Bill of Rights. Our Second Amendment, our First Amendment, our Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, and 10th Amendments. We stand strong on the Bill of Rights. These are principles and goals worth fighting for. I want to close with this. You know, because sometimes I'm asked, how are you going to withstand? How are you going to take these millions of dollars of negative campaign commercials on TV? How are you going to deal with that? You know how we're going to deal with it? We're going to deal with it together. That's what we're going to do. Because I'll tell you what, nothing moves votes more than when people of integrity put a sign in their yard, put a bumper sticker in their yard, write a letter to the editor in their own words, saying why you support somebody. Yeah, these other forums have importance. We're going to have to raise money and do these things, but I'm not at any moment confused. I know what moves votes most of all. It's folks like here. And you know what? These are issues that we stand for. Yes, I'm a Republican, but I'm an American first. These are issues that all Americans can rally around. These are issues worth fighting for. And I think of Teddy Roosevelt. You know, it was his saying on the 23rd of April. He said, "It's not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." This won't be us, because we will do this together. We will have fun in the process, and we will bring victory in November. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you. Thank you.